Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we're going to put a loving spotlight on an amazing local nonprofit that's been around for 41 years. One of the driving forces behind Marketplace Chaplains is in the studio right now. You'll hear her journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
All right, CEOs, listen up. You're going to love this show. Let's say you're the head of a large organization and you have a salesperson who's a rock star salesperson, and then he happens to have a loss of a loved one or a divorce, and now all of a sudden this rock star salesman or woman is just a shell of himself or herself. Well, how do we deal with that? HR is not going to deal with that. You have to turn to somebody like my next guest, Renee Getz. She's with Marketplace Chaplains. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jeff.
Well, let's start back in time. So this organization has been around since 1984. That's unbelievable.
We have. We provide a professional employee care service utilizing chaplain care teams, male, female, ethnically diverse, and bilingual. And so we were started by Gil Strickland many years ago. He was a military chaplain, got out of the military, looked around, fire and police, hospitals have chaplains, even sports teams have chaplains, but he wondered, who cares for people in the workplace? So he started that organization here in Dallas 41 years ago, and now in our 41st year, we currently have almost 2,200 chaplains serving in over 6,000 workplaces on a weekly basis, caring for over 1.5 million employees and their family members.
That's absolutely incredible. I want to hear your journey. How did you get involved?
Well, I was a banker for many years, and one of the community banks where I worked had the chaplain care service. And I just saw the value of chaplains in the workplace. My personal story is that we had Chaplain Ann, got to know her, and she had befriended Julie up in credit cards. And Julie started asking faith questions and really wanted to grow in her faith. And so she introduced us. We got to know each other. She wanted to get married. So I helped arrange her wedding. And then several months later, and we were young women at the time, she was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. But I sat beside her bed the night before she went into eternity to see her Lord. And I credit that relationship with knowing Chaplain Ann.
Wow, I'm sure she'll be very proud of what you've done with your life. You are the Executive Director of Expansion, and you've been there for 7 years. What does that position mean?
I present our services to leadership and tell them how we can partner with them to care for their employees.
Outstanding. We're going to pull up the website, and as we scroll down the website, let's talk about the role of the chaplain. So it's kind of a non-denominational role. Is that right?
Well, right. Our chaplains, our mission is to share God's love in the workplace, and our chaplains are non-denominational Protestant Christians. But we are there to serve everybody. We want to love and care for everybody. And the ways that we do that, we work with companies and customize a service plan based on how they work. But we like to make regularly scheduled worksite visits where we circulate through the workplace. They're brief. We don't want to interrupt work. But it's that whole in-person, face-to-face connection, developing relationships of trust with employees. And then we leave the workplace, but we're available 24/7 every day of the year. So that can be for a confidential discussion over the phone, meeting at a neutral site like a coffee shop, talking about life's issues, parenting, challenges of raising teenagers while you're caring for your aging parents, and job stress, finances, just whatever's going on in your life.
Okay, I know you've been doing this for a while. When you look back over your 7 years, what's been your favorite memory of this is why I do what I do, without naming the client or the customer?
Oh, there's so many stories I could tell, and everything that is said to a chaplain is confidential, so I won't reveal any details. But, I can think of an employee who never interacted with the chaplain, and one day the chaplain's phone rang, and that man was just crying. His family was falling apart, and he had nowhere to turn. And he remembered that chaplain who consistently came through his workplace and greeted him. And he called, and the chaplain sat down with him, met with him, came up with a plan on how to get those relationships restored, and worked with him. Another story of one of the employees in the retail workplace that we served. He looked downcast, and as you know, mental health issues are really on the rise the last few years, Jeff, and suicide ideation has more than doubled. We've actually done training, on how to address this situation to help people. And this is just one story of many where we've been able to prevent suicides. The chaplain, noticed that he was downtrodden, asked him how he was feeling, asked him pointed questions that they're trained to asked, have you ever thought about harming yourself? Sure enough, he had a whole plan in place and shared that with her. Well, she was able to stop that, prevent that, help him, and he's alive today because of her.
Wow, that's amazing. I got chills. We're going to show some video. This was shot by your organization a few years ago. I want you to just kind of talk about the role of the chaplain. When a chaplain is introduced for the first time, how does he or she navigate? They're not really getting into people's business and asking, do you have a problem, or how does it work?
Right, and we'll work with the company to do a startup meeting. It's usually incorporated into a staff meeting where we introduce the chaplains and we talk about what we do and some of the basic tenets of our services that are either voluntary and permission-based, so we won't force a conversation. Employees really choose if they want to interact with us as well. It's what they want to talk about. And then, like I said, we're available 24/7, and not only for the employees, but for their family members. So we'll do hospital visits.
No kidding.
We'll meet them wherever care can be given. We'll help them with funerals to process the grief. After we develop relationships, we're asked to conduct the funerals. We'll do that for them. And because we're national, if you're here, but your relative passes in Denver, we can do an out-of-state funeral and help you or respond to a crisis and serve those people out of state. So voluntary 24/7 availability. We say we're neutral from company operations. We're not going to go tell your boss about your job and vice versa. And then fully inclusive, there to serve everyone. Faith, no faith, or different faith. We just want to love and care for people.
Wow. Now, you mentioned the pandemic, and the pandemic really was shell-shocking for everybody. And there's a lot of people who are, I'm going to call them walking wounded. They don't have the wounds on the outside, but inside they're hurting because their life was disrupted for 2+ years. Some remote people are just now coming back to the office.
Sure.
Have you seen more mental health issues in the last few years?
Definitely. Those things are on the rise, but we're really able to be there as that empathetic ear, that support, offer advice, help people come up with plans on how to deal with some of life's issues. So we also have what we call our Connect Care services for remote employees, where we assign a team to remote employees and they'll reach out either by text, email, and contact or call them once a month. And then we also have our MyChap app. So that's free for every employee to download in Android and Apple, and you get a code that's specific to your location, and directly from the app you can call, email, or text or video chat with your chaplain. And then that app is also loaded with lots of resources, articles on mental health, understanding depression, dealing with anxiety, understanding thoughts of suicide, and a lot of helpful articles.
Renee, it seems like it's just a no-brainer for most CEOs because, as I made the point earlier, they're just not equipped to handle the problems of everyday life. And then the employee is probably not going to raise his or her hand and say, hey, boss, I'm having some mental health issues. Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, that's why we partner with the company, because really we're an expression of leadership, showing that they value and care for their employees by bringing us into the workplace. And yet people can feel this is a safe place to confide in somebody and know it's not going to go anywhere. we're kind of a first responder of sorts, you know, building relationships with people to help them with their issues.
What an amazing company. We're going to ask you to wrap it up here in the last minute or so. So maybe talk to that CEO who is saying to himself or herself, maybe I need to call Renee and bring Marketplace Chaplains.
Yeah, we would love to talk to you and share more about how we can partner with you to care for your employees. And we know how busy you are running your company. And of course, we all have things we don't share with our bosses. You know, everybody needs a confidential resource. And so we would love to partner with you and talk to you more about how we can serve.
Outstanding. We're going to end with the website, which is mcchapusa.com. The great Renee Getz. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.